If the bank robberies of the century required guns, explosives, and hulking armored trucks, then the Bybit hack was truly one of the eeriest acts of illusion in human history. The attacker didn't break down any doors or storm inside. No, they only needed to sit in front of a computer screen and patiently wait for the exact right moment. And on the night of February 21st, 2025, Ben Zhou, the head of Bybit, suddenly announced, "Bybit has been attacked."
I got a call from my CFO.
"We have lost approximately 401,000 Ethereum. Based on what we know, this could be the largest hack in the history of our industry."
How much is that? And he said $1.5 billion.
But how did it disappear? And who was powerful enough to pull it off? You are looking at a young IT employee at Bybit, not an executive, just an engineer within that massive operational machine. He sits in front of his laptop on an entirely ordinary morning. In his internal inbox, a new email arrives. The subject line sounds so familiar that no one would think twice about it. Security update, internal tool. The email is sent from a legitimate address. It carries an internal signature. It has the company logo. The language is perfectly correct. Exactly the tone and style he has been reading for months while working at Bybit. The content is very simple. A new security tool designed to assist with transaction signing verification and wallet synchronization. A minor update, a routine task. He clicks to download it, opens the file. Nothing happens. At least, nothing on the surface. He goes back to his work like any other day. He may even think, done. But at that very moment, deep beneath that harmless-looking interface, something else is activated. A piece of code that does not belong to Bybit, does not belong to the security team, does not belong to any process he was ever trained on. He has no idea that his computer has just become a backdoor. No idea that from this point on, someone else can see what he sees. And worse, can alter what he believes to be correct. He does not know that weeks later, when a transfer from a cold wallet is approved, the interface will look flawless. The address is correct. The amount is correct. The signature is correct. Yet 401,000 Ethereum are gone. Not through a loud, forceful attack, not through a stupid mistake. Now, take a step back. Who had the patience to plant a trap like this and wait for months just to press a button and steal $1.5 billion? North Korea in the late 2000s. While most of the world was struggling to recover from the 2008 global financial crisis, North Korea was facing a different, harsher reality. Near total isolation, sanctions tightened, trade was strangled, and foreign currency was almost non-existent. The country had no cash flow, no way out, and no easy options. In that context, Kim Jong-il, father of Kim Jong-un, made a strategic decision that was never officially announced. There was no decree, no public statement, only a cold conclusion. If they could not earn money legally, they would steal it. From that decision, a special unit was born, Bureau 121. On paper, this unit did not exist. In reality, it became one of the most dangerous cyber warfare training centers in the world. Those selected were not self-taught hackers. They were military officers. Identified as early as age 10, they were placed into intensive training programs in mathematics, computer science, and English. By the age of 20, they had become strategic instruments of the state. And they had only one mission: steal money on the largest possible scale. Their first major success came in 2014 when they attacked Sony Pictures. Internal systems were breached, emails were stolen, and unreleased films were leaked. The reason sounded almost absurd. Sony had produced a comedy about assassinating Kim Jong-un. The damage reached roughly $100 million. The public mocked Sony, but intelligence agencies did not. They recognized something alarming. North Korea was capable of penetrating major American corporations and causing real damage. 2 years later, Lazarus, the name the cybersecurity community had begun using for this group, targeted the Central Bank of Bangladesh. The objective was $1 billion from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. They nearly succeeded completely. $81 million had already been transferred before the transactions were stopped. The reason was not exceptional defenses, but a spelling mistake. The word foundation was misspelled as foundation. A bank employee sensed something was wrong and hit the stop button. $81 million were stolen thanks to sophisticated techniques and an almost unbelievable, absurd mistake. But Bangladesh was only a rehearsal. By 2022, Lazarus had perfected their most dangerous method: supply chain attacks. They no longer hacked targets directly. Instead, they infiltrated the tools, software, and infrastructure their targets trusted. Most importantly, they attacked people, the weakest link in any security system. In January 2025, the next target emerged: Dubai, United Arab Emirates. Bybit, one of the largest cryptocurrency exchanges in the world. In theory, that system had no weaknesses. But in reality, there is always a fundamental problem. Security is only as strong as the people who operate it. Somewhere within the Bybit organization, a small mistake occurred. It might have been a link in an email, a file downloaded during a job interview, a software update that looked completely legitimate, but had been compromised in advance. No one knows exactly how Lazarus got in. It is only known that by January 2025, they were already inside. But what vulnerability did North Korea exploit to steal such an enormous amount of money? The answer lay in the exchange's own familiar operating procedures. Like every other crypto exchange, Bybit maintained two types of wallets. A sufficient amount of assets was kept in a hot wallet online to handle daily transactions, while the main reserves were stored in a cold wallet, offline storage isolated from the internet to prevent hacking. When the hot wallet began to run low, the system would automatically transfer funds from the cold wallet to maintain liquidity. Everything appeared to be designed with absolute security in mind. But that very process became the fatal weakness. The criminals understood this mechanism perfectly, so they targeted SafeWallet, the intermediary service Bybit used to transfer funds from cold wallets to hot wallets. On that fateful day, the Bybit team carried out a massive Ethereum transfer from a cold wallet as usual, and all the information displayed on the interface appeared completely normal. No one realized that the attackers had secretly changed the destination wallet address to one under their control. That morning, no one on Bybit's security team woke up with the feeling that they were standing at a historic turning point. Everything began very small, almost trivial. A security specialist opened the cold wallet balance dashboard, just as he did every day. The number on the screen made him pause longer than usual. The balance had dropped sharply overnight, not by a few million, not by tens of millions, but by a vast, chilling void. He checked again, then a third time. The transaction logs appeared complete. Timestamps, signatures, approvals, everything valid. No alerts, no intrusion notifications, no familiar signs of an attack. And yet, his instincts told him something was wrong. He called his direct supervisor. The two of them stared at the screen together, silence stretching for several seconds. Then the supervisor spoke slowly, almost in a whisper. "Check the receiving address." In that moment, the air in the room seemed to freeze. The wallet address did not belong to Bybit. It had never belonged to Bybit. It was a strange address, empty just hours earlier, and now it held $1.5 billion worth of Ethereum. There was no shouting, no immediate panic, only one unmistakable feeling. Everything had just collapsed. In another office, Benjo sat alone. The door was closed. The lights were off. His phone lay face down on the desk, but it kept vibrating without pause. He had learned the truth less than half an hour earlier. The transaction he had approved during the night, the transaction he believed was routine, had become the largest theft in the history of the industry. No one blamed him. They couldn't blame him. He had followed every procedure correctly, He was the one who had designed that multi-signature system. He was the one who always emphasized cross-checking, independent verification, never skipping a step. And he had done all of those things. That was what made it so cruel. He had made no mistake. And yet, he had still signed the transaction that transferred $1.5 billion out. On his screen at the time, everything was correct. The address was correct. The amount was correct. The smart contract was correct. But beneath that layer of interface, malware had changed everything. A reality no one in that room could see at the decisive moment. His phone vibrated again, then again. Investors, partners, the board of directors. Questions came in waves, with no immediate answers. What happened? Do we have this under control? How will customers react? Ben did not pick up the phone. He knew there was only one thing left for him to do now. Stand up and take responsibility. Bybit confirmed that a massive sum equivalent to 1.46 billion US dollars, 401,000 ETH, had been stolen. The company immediately reassured customers that no one would lose their funds. The exchange pledged to use its reserve funds to guarantee users' assets. In reality, Bybit had to borrow a large amount of Ethereum from partners to cover the shortfall in its cold wallets. All of these moves were aimed at one goal: preserving customer trust and buying time to strike back. At the same time as it worked to contain the damage, Bybit declared war on the hacker group behind the audacious heist. The exchange quickly launched a global manhunt campaign, offering millions of dollars in rewards to anyone who could provide leads to help block or recover the stolen funds. On a website called Lazarus Bounty, Bybit publicly called on the community to join the effort. As of the time this video went on air, the total bounty had reached $140 million, and so far it had attracted 13 bounty hunters, with more than $2.3 million already paid out in rewards. However, these hunters soon realized they were up against one of the most formidable adversaries in existence. The hackers behind the attack possessed exceptional skills and had successfully carried out heists worth hundreds of millions of dollars in the past. The chase had only just begun, and no one could be certain which side would ultimately prevail. As soon as Bybit issued its emergency announcement, the battle immediately shifted to another front. This was no longer about server rooms or transaction signing interfaces. It had become a global pursuit. Washington, D.C., the morning of February 21st, 2025. Inside a closed conference room at the FBI's cyber division, agents stood around a large screen. Displayed on it was not a map or satellite imagery, but something far more abstract: the flow of money across the blockchain. Hundreds of tangled lines crisscrossed the display, wallets connected to wallets, transactions splitting and merging like a living web. One agent broke the silence. Can we freeze it? The answer came almost immediately, short and cold. No. Cryptocurrency is not like the banking system. There is no central authority, no stop transaction button, no hotline to call. That $1.5 billion existed openly on the blockchain, visible to everyone, traceable by anyone, but untouchable unless the thieves made a mistake, or unless they tried to convert the cryptocurrency into real-world cash. The FBI understood this perfectly, and they acted at once. Within hours, hundreds of calls were placed to major exchanges around the world. The message was the same, blunt and direct. We are sending you a list of wallet addresses linked to a state-level theft. If you see these funds, freeze them immediately. This was no longer just a financial fraud case. It was a matter of national security. At the same time, another organization was working relentlessly. Elliptic, a blockchain analytics company based in the United Kingdom, activated its full monitoring systems. To them, the blockchain was not a maze. It was a brutally detailed ledger. Every transaction left a trace. It could not be erased. It could not be completely hidden. The question was not whether it could be tracked, but whether it could be tracked fast enough. Elliptic's analysts began making comparisons. Each new transaction was placed alongside dozens of previous attacks attributed to Lazarus. The way the money was broken up, the timing of the transactions, the pace of the laundering. Gradually, everything began to align. A pattern emerged. And what made that pattern frightening was this. Everything was unfolding exactly as expected. Within hours of the theft, the $1.5 billion was no longer sitting still. It was torn into pieces, not once, but dozens of times simultaneously. The money was sent to decentralized exchanges, where identity verification was not required. Some of it passed through cross-chain bridges, turning Ethereum into other coins on different blockchains, like switching vehicles between countries to evade pursuit. Another portion flowed into mixers, digital laundromats, where dirty money and clean money were blended together until their origins could no longer be distinguished. One elliptic analyst described the situation in a calm yet chilling way. "We are watching $1.5 billion being laundered in public, in real time. Everyone can see it. But seeing it is not the same as stopping it. The FBI and Elliptic coordinated minute by minute. Each time a new wallet appeared, it was flagged. Each time funds touched a centralized exchange, the FBI contacted them immediately. And they achieved a small measure of success. About $50 million was frozen in time. That figure sounded large, until it was compared to the total loss. Only about 3%. The remaining 97% kept moving, continuing to be cleaned. Ironically, this historic hack did more than expose security vulnerabilities. It also deepened the rifts among the different players in the cryptocurrency world. In its effort to block the outflow of stolen funds, Bybit discovered that a large amount of stolen Ether, about $94 million, had passed through an exchange called EXCH without being stopped. On the Lazarus Bounty website, Bybit openly named EXCH and criticized the exchange for failing to cooperate in halting the flow of illicit funds. The accusation was strong. Bybit and several other companies alleged that EXCH had effectively aided money laundering by turning a blind eye to those suspicious transactions. The response from the other side was swift. Johann Roberts, the elusive owner of EXCH, denied responsibility. In an email reply, Roberts admitted that EXCH had initially not blocked the $94 million in question, but argued that there had been prior disputes between EXCH and Bybit, and that he was not sure those coins actually came from the hack. Roberts further contended that mainstream exchanges, by requiring customers to verify their identities, had effectively abandoned anonymity and privacy, the core values of cryptocurrency. In other words, he implicitly defended EXCH's policy of allowing anonymous transactions, even if that inadvertently created loopholes for criminals to exploit. The war of words between Bybit and EXCH divided the community. One side supported stricter measures in the name of security, while the other defended the ideals of freedom and anonymity in cryptocurrency. Yet regardless of who was right or wrong, the dispute inadvertently gave the hackers time to move a significant portion of the funds, and they showed no sign of stopping. The battle was far from over. Those behind the digital curtain remained at large, and the entire crypto world understood that the hunt for them would be long, difficult, and fraught with uncertainty. Every story about major hacks, when examined to the very end, does more than shock or unsettle people. It always leaves behind a warning. The Bybit hack is no different. The first lesson, and the clearest one, is this: technology is never naturally secure. Blockchain may be immutable, and cryptocurrency may operate without intermediaries. But people and processes always have weaknesses. All it takes is one compromised link in the chain, one deceptive interface, one misplaced digital signature, and billions of dollars can disappear in seconds. This is not just a story about major exchanges. For individual users, it is a reminder that security is not optional. Be cautious with unfamiliar emails, suspicious links, and software of uncertain origin. Understand what you are signing and where you are sending your money. Because in the world of cryptocurrency, there is no undo, and no one will step in to save you if you hand the keys to a criminal yourself. And beyond that, when money becomes intertwined with power, cybercrime is no longer the work of isolated individuals. In the Bybit case, the perpetrators were suspected to be not merely hackers seeking personal gain, but part of a state apparatus where cyber attacks have become tools of economic and geopolitical strategy. The stolen Ethereum was not just numbers on a screen. It could be converted into missiles, weapons, and military leverage. The line between hacking, theft, and national conflict is becoming increasingly blurred. This raises a larger question for society. Are we entering an era in which wars no longer require bombs and bullets, but are waged with code and keyboards? If a nation can finance its military programs by attacking global exchanges, then this is no longer merely an internal issue for the cryptocurrency industry. It is a matter of world order, of international security, and of how global law is falling behind technology. Ultimately, the Bybit hack is not just the story of 401,000 ETH being stolen. It forces us to confront an uncomfortable reality. Financial freedom comes with unprecedented responsibility and risk. And in a deeply connected world like ours, a single mistaken click somewhere can trigger global repercussions.